Here's something that doesn't make sense. Two people get cut off in traffic. One guy laughs it off. The other guy is screaming, veins popping, ruining his whole morning. Same situation. Totally different reactions. Why? Because anger isn't about what happens to you. It's about what you're telling yourself about what happens. And right now, you're telling yourself things that are making you miserable. What if I could show you the exact sentences in your head that create your anger and how to change them? Look, I'm not going to give you breathing exercises or tell you to count to 10. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. I'm going to go straight to the source of your anger, the irrational beliefs you keep repeating that generate the anger in the first place. Here's what you're going to learn in the next 25 minutes. First, you're going to see the exact ABC model of how anger actually works in your brain and why understanding this gives you complete control. Second, I'm going to expose the 3 major irrational beliefs that create all of your anger, and you'll recognize yourself immediately. Third, you'll learn how to dispute these beliefs in real time, so you can actually stop getting angry before it even starts. And finally, you're going to get a practical system you can use today, tonight, tomorrow, anytime someone or something pisses you off. This isn't therapy speak. This is rational emotive behavior therapy, REBT, the approach I created specifically to help people stop making themselves miserable. And yeah, I said making themselves on purpose, because that's exactly what you're doing. Let's get to work. Most people think anger works like this. Something bad happens, and then you feel angry. Simple cause and effect, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. There's something in between that you're completely missing, and once you see it, everything changes. Let me show you what's really going on in your brain when you get pissed off. I call it the ABC model, and it's the foundation of everything I'm about to teach you. A stands for activating event. That's the thing that happens. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your partner forgets your anniversary. Your boss criticizes your work. Your kid talks back to you. These are just events. They're neutral, completely neutral, until you interpret them. And here's what most people get wrong. They think a cause is C. They think the event causes their anger. But it doesn't. There's a B, and that B is where all your anger actually comes from. B stands for belief system. This is what you tell yourself about what happened. And this is where you're screwing yourself over. You're not just observing the event. You're evaluating it. You're demanding things about it. You're catastrophizing about it. When someone cuts you off, you're not just thinking, oh, that person changed lanes. You're thinking he shouldn't drive like that. When your partner forgets something important, you're not thinking, oh, they forgot. You're thinking she must remember important dates. When your boss criticizes you, you're not thinking, okay, feedback. You're thinking this means I'm a total failure. When your kid talks back, you're not thinking he's testing boundaries. You're thinking he has no respect for me. These beliefs happen so fast you don't even notice them. They're like lightning. Event happens, belief fires, emotion follows. And you think the event caused the emotion, but it didn't. The belief did. C stands for consequence. That's your emotional and behavioral response. The anger you feel, the yelling you do, the ruminating for hours afterward, the physical tension in your body, the revenge fantasies, all of it. That's C. And here's the revolutionary insight that changes everything. If A caused C directly, then everyone would react the same way to the same situation. But they don't, because everyone has different BS, different beliefs. Let me give you a concrete example. Traffic jam. You're stuck on the highway. Person A is gripping the steering wheel, honking, screaming at other drivers, blood pressure going through the roof. Person B in the next car is listening to music, maybe singing along, totally relaxed. Same A, same traffic jam. Completely different C, completely different emotional response. Why? Because they have different BS. Person A is telling themselves this shouldn't be happening. I have to get there on time. This is awful. I can't stand this. Person B is telling themselves, well, traffic happens. I'll get there when I get there. Nothing I can do about it. Might as well enjoy the music. Same event, different beliefs, different consequences. This is huge. Do you see what this means? You can't always control A. You can't control whether someone cuts you off or forgets something or criticizes you. But you can always work on B. You can always change what you're telling yourself. And when you change B, C automatically changes. Your anger isn't happening to you. You're doing it to yourself with the beliefs you're running in your head. I'm going to be really straight with you. I used to have a terrible temper. I mean terrible. I get so angry I'd make myself physically sick. And then I figured this out. I figured out that I was demanding that the world operate according to my rules. The moment someone broke my rules, boom, instant rage. But here's what nobody tells you. Those rules? They're made up. They're not real. There's no cosmic law that says people must treat me with respect. There's no universal mandate that things must go smoothly. I made up these rules, and then I got angry when reality didn't follow them. So now you see that your beliefs create your anger, not the events themselves. But what kind of beliefs are we talking about? There are 3 specific types of irrational beliefs that generate almost all human anger. And I guarantee you're using at least 2 of them right now. Let me break them down so you can catch yourself in the act. All anger comes from demands, not preferences, not wishes. Demands. There are 3 types: demands on others, demands on yourself, and demands on the world. Let's start with the most common one: demanding others meet your expectations. This is the you must belief. You must treat me with respect. You should know better. You have to do what I say. This is the most common anger creator I see. You're essentially saying the universe must arrange itself according to my preferences. Other people must behave the way I want them to behave. Newsflash: other people don't exist to fulfill your expectations. They have their own beliefs, their own histories, their own agendas. They're not sitting around thinking, how can I meet this person's expectations today? They're living their own lives. When you demand and they don't comply, you make yourself angry. Let me say that again. You make yourself angry, not them. You, because the demand is coming from you. Now here's the rational alternative. I prefer they treat me well, but they don't have to. Notice the difference? Preference creates disappointment. Demand creates rage. If I prefer something and I don't get it, I'm disappointed. That's manageable. That's human. But if I demand something and I don't get it, I'm furious. Because I've convinced myself that I must have it, that I'm entitled to it, that reality is wrong if I don't get it. Let me give you some examples. Your spouse is supposed to call you when they're running late. They don't. Demand says they must call me. How dare they not call? This is unacceptable. Preference says, I really wish they'd called. That's inconsiderate. I'm going to talk to them about it. See? Both acknowledge the problem. But one creates rage and the other creates a manageable level of annoyance. Which one is going to help you actually solve the problem? Which one is going to help you communicate effectively? The preference. Because you're not screaming. You're not attacking. You're just addressing an issue. Here's another one. Demanding perfection from yourself. This is the I must belief. I must succeed at everything. I should never make mistakes. I have to be perfect or I'm worthless. This creates anger at yourself. Self-rage. Shame spirals. You screw up and then you spend hours beating yourself up. You failed the diet. You blew the presentation. You snapped at your kid. And instead of just acknowledging, okay, I messed up, what can I learn? You go into this whole thing of I'm such an idiot. I should know better. I always do this. I'm a failure. You're demanding that you be superhuman. But here's the reality check. Humans are fallible. That's literally what makes us human. If you were perfect, you wouldn't be human. You'd be a robot or a god or something. But you're not. You're a person, and people make mistakes. That's not a flaw in the system. That's the system. So the rational alternative is I prefer to do well, but I'm allowed to be imperfect. This doesn't mean you don't try. This doesn't mean you don't have standards. It means you don't destroy yourself when you fail to meet them. I see this all the time with high achievers. They come to me and they're successful by any objective measure, but they're miserable because they're constantly angry at themselves for not being perfect. And I tell them, look, you can keep demanding perfection and stay miserable, or you can prefer excellence and accept your humanity. Your choice. The third type of demand is demanding the world be fair or easy or comfortable. This is the it must belief. Life must be fair. Things shouldn't be this difficult. The world must give me what I deserve. This is cosmic demanding. You're not just demanding things from people or from yourself. You're demanding things from reality itself. You want the universe to bend to your will. Traffic must flow smoothly. Weather must cooperate. Technology must work perfectly. The line at the store must be short. Your flight must be on time. And when these things don't happen, you get angry. But here's the hard truth. The universe doesn't care about your comfort. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying it because it's true. There's no cosmic customer service department that's making sure your day goes smoothly. Things happen. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, often just random. The rational alternative is I prefer things go smoothly, but difficulties are part of life. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's not becoming passive. It's dealing with reality instead of fighting it. When you stop demanding that reality be different, you can actually start solving problems instead of just raging about them. Now let me tell you about the hidden word that creates so much misery. The word should. Every time you say should or must or have to, you're setting yourself up for anger. These words create demands, not preferences. Start noticing how often you use them. He shouldn't have said that. That's a demand. I wish he hadn't said that. That's a preference. One creates anger. The other creates disappointment you can handle. I had a client once who came in furious at her husband. He was late getting home for dinner. Again. And she's going on and on about how he should be on time. He should respect her enough to call. He should care about her effort in making dinner. Should. And I said to her, where is it written that he should? Where's the law? Where's the contract? And she looked at me like I was crazy. She said it's just common courtesy. And I said, okay, so you prefer he be on time. That makes sense. But does he have to be? Is there a universal law requiring punctuality? And she said, well, no, but he should want to. And I said, should is the problem. You're demanding. He's not meeting the demand. You're making yourself angry. We worked on changing it to preference. I prefer he be on time. I wish he'd call. It would be considerate. And when she stopped demanding, when she just addressed it as a preference, she could actually talk to him about it without screaming. And you know what? He responded better to that conversation than to months of her raging at him. Because she wasn't attacking. She was just expressing a preference and asking him to work on it. That's the power of dropping demands. All right, so now you can identify the demands creating your anger. But here's where it gets practical. How do you actually stop making these demands in the moment? How do you change beliefs that feel so automatic, so true? That's what disputation is all about. And it's the most powerful tool you'll ever learn. Disputation means actively arguing with your irrational beliefs, not just noticing them, challenging them. You've been letting these beliefs run wild in your head for years, maybe decades. Now we're going to cross-examine them like a lawyer in court. When you notice a demand, immediately ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1. Where's the evidence? Where is it written that people must treat me with respect? Show me the universal law that says life should be fair. What proof do I have that I must never make mistakes? Usually there is no evidence. You just made up the rule. It feels true because you've been repeating it to yourself for so long, but that doesn't make it true. It just makes it familiar. So you challenge it. Where's the evidence? And when you can't find any, the belief starts to crumble. Question 2. Is this belief logical? Does it logically follow that because I want something, I must have it? Does my preference for fairness mean the universe is obligated to be fair? No, that's magical thinking. That's like saying because I want to fly, gravity should stop applying to me. It makes no sense, but we do this all the time with our demands. We act like wanting something badly enough creates an obligation for us to get it. It doesn't. Question 3. Is this belief helping me? Is demanding respect getting me respect? Or just making me angry? Is demanding perfection making me better? Or just miserable? Is demanding fairness making life fair? Or just making me bitter? If it's not helping, why keep doing it? This is the pragmatic question. Even if you can't let go of the belief that people should behave better or life should be easier, you can at least acknowledge that believing it isn't doing you any good. And that opens the door to trying something different. After disputing the demand, replace it with a preference. Let me walk you through an example. Someone interrupts you while you're talking. Demand says he must not interrupt me. How dare he? This is so disrespectful. Now you dispute. Where's the law of the universe that says he must let me finish? There isn't one. He's rude, sure, but there's no cosmic rule against rudeness. Is it logical that because I prefer not to be interrupted, I must never be interrupted? No. Is this demand helping me? No, I'm just getting angrier. So now you replace it. Preference says, I prefer he doesn't interrupt, and I'll address it calmly if needed. Notice you still care. You still have standards, but you're not demanding reality be different. And this shift drops your anger from a 9 to maybe a 3. Let me tell you about catching, awfulizing, and catastrophizing. This is when you take something inconvenient and turn it into a catastrophe. This traffic is awful. No, it's not awful. War is awful. Cancer is awful. Famine is awful. Traffic is inconvenient. It's terrible that she forgot. No, it's disappointing, maybe hurtful, but not terrible. I can't stand this. Yes, you can. You're standing it right now. You're standing it and complaining about it, which proves you can stand it. The rational response is this is bad or frustrating or unpleasant, but I can stand it, and it's not the end of the world. Rate things accurately. Annoyance is a 1 to 3. Frustration is a 4 to 6. Serious problem is a 7 to 10. Stop treating 3s like they're 10s. You're wearing yourself out. Here's a technique I love. The so what technique. Keep asking, so what, to expose the irrationality. He disrespected me. So what? So that means I'm worthless. Where's the evidence for that? People are judging me. So what if they are? So I need everyone's approval to be okay. Says who? This method reveals the hidden demands underneath your anger. And usually they crumble under examination. I remember once I had a client who attacked me personally in a session. Called me all kinds of names. Told me I was a fraud, that I didn't know what I was doing. And I felt that flash of anger coming up. And then I caught it. I thought he must not insult me. Wait, where's the evidence he must not? He's upset and behaving badly, but there's no law against it. Do I prefer respect? Sure. Am I going to make myself miserable demanding it? No. And I just let it go. Didn't take it personally. Didn't get angry. And you know what? That allowed me to actually help him because I wasn't reacting defensively. I could see what was really going on with him. Now, disputation is powerful, but I'm going to be straight with you. It takes practice. Your brain has been running these irrational beliefs for years, maybe decades. So how do you actually make this a habit? How do you train your brain to dispute automatically? That's where the practical system comes in. Knowledge isn't enough. You need practice. You need to actually do the disputation work until it becomes second nature. Here's your daily system for making rational thinking automatic. First, the anger log. This is your training tool. Every time you get angry, even mildly annoyed, write it down. Use the ABC format. A equals what happened. Just the facts, no interpretation. B equals what you told yourself. Your belief, your demand. C equals how you felt and what you did. Then add D and E. D is disputation. Challenge the belief using the 3 questions. E is new effect, the new feeling after disputing. Here's an example. A. Boss criticized my report. B. He shouldn't criticize me. This is awful. I must do everything perfectly. C. Felt angry, defensive, wanted to quit. D. Where's evidence he shouldn't criticize? That's literally his job. Is it awful? No, it's uncomfortable. Must I be perfect? No, I'm human. E. Feel disappointed, but motivated to improve the report. Do this for 1 week, and you'll start catching beliefs in real time. I'm not kidding. 1 week of this, and your brain starts to rewire itself. Second, the pre-anger intervention. Identify your anger triggers before they happen. Traffic, your spouse's habits, your kid's behavior, work deadlines. Before entering triggering situations, remind yourself, I prefer this goes smoothly, but it doesn't have to. If things go wrong, I can stand it. Other people are allowed to be imperfect. This is like warming up before exercise. You're preparing your rational brain. I used to do this before difficult client sessions. I think, okay, this client might be hostile or resistant. I prefer they be cooperative, but they don't have to be. If they attack me, I can handle it. It dramatically reduced my anger responses. Third, the in-the-moment interrupt. When you feel anger rising, pause. Literally say to yourself, what am I demanding right now? Catch the should, must, or have to. Quickly dispute it. Do they have to meet my expectation? No. Replace with preference. I prefer this, but I can handle it if not. This 10-second intervention can drop your anger before it escalates. Key point, you're not suppressing anger. You're removing its cause. Big difference. Fourth, the self-compassion component. Be patient with yourself in this process. You will still get angry sometimes. You're learning a new skill. When you slip up and rage out, don't rage at yourself for raging. That's just another irrational demand. I must never get angry. Instead, say I got angry. That's information. What belief triggered it? How can I dispute it next time? Progress, not perfection. Remember? I'll tell you about my own experience with the anger log. When I was first developing REBT, I used it on myself constantly. I had this colleague who would constantly challenge my ideas in the most obnoxious way, and I'd feel that anger coming up, and I'd write it down. A, colleague challenged my theory. B, he shouldn't question me like that. He should show more respect. This proves he thinks I'm incompetent. C, angry, wanted to argue, felt disrespected. Then I dispute. Where's the evidence he shouldn't question me? Actually, that's what colleagues do. They question ideas. That's healthy debate. Does his questioning prove I'm incompetent? No, it proves we disagree. And when I did that, the anger just dissolved. And I could actually engage with his criticism instead of just defending my ego. Okay, so you got the system. But let's be real. There's one question everybody asks me at this point. Albert, if I stop getting angry, doesn't that mean I just accept bad behavior? Don't I become a doormat? Hell no. Let me explain why giving up anger actually makes you more effective, not less. Anger doesn't help you. It feels like power, but it actually makes you less effective at solving problems and setting boundaries. When you give up anger, you don't become weak. You become strategic, clear-headed, and actually more likely to get what you want. Here's why. Anger clouds your judgment. When you're angry, your prefrontal cortex, that's your rational brain, shuts down. Your amygdala, your emotional brain, takes over. This means you make worse decisions when angry. You say things you regret. You escalate situations that didn't need escalating. You miss solutions because you're too busy fuming. Rational response keeps you strategic. You're thinking this is frustrating, but what's the most effective way to handle it? What outcome do I actually want here? How can I communicate clearly without attacking? That's power. Real power. You can set boundaries without rage. Setting boundaries doesn't equal anger. Setting boundaries equals calm assertion of your limits. Compare these two. Angry boundary, you're such an asshole. Don't you ever do that again. Rational boundary, that doesn't work for me. Here's what I need going forward. Which one is more likely to be heard and respected? Anger makes people defensive. Rational firmness makes people listen. You can be strong without being angry. People think if I don't get angry, there are no consequences for bad behavior. Wrong. You impose consequences, not your anger. Example, your employee keeps missing deadlines. Angry response, yell, make them feel terrible, create resentment. Rational response, this is the third missed deadline. Here are the consequences if it continues. The consequence is delivered calmly but firmly, which is more professional, which maintains your dignity. Anger is optional. Consequences are not. Long-term relationship health. Chronic anger destroys relationships. Period. Your partner, your kids, your friends, they all suffer from your anger. Even when you're angry about something real, the anger itself damages the connection. Rational approach preserves relationships. You address problems without personal attacks. You stay solution-focused. You maintain respect even when disappointed. Over time, this builds trust instead of fear. People want to be around rational people. They avoid angry people. Let me tell you a story. I had a client who came in furious at their teenage son for failing classes. They've been screaming and punishing for months. Zero results. The kid was shutting down, becoming more defiant, grades getting worse. Through REBT, they learned to drop the anger while maintaining firm consequences. They said to their son, "You failed math. I'm disappointed. Here's what happens now. No car until grades improve. We'll check in weekly. Calm. Firm. No rage." The son responded better to that calm firmness than to months of rage. Why? Because he wasn't defending himself against an attack. He was just dealing with a consequence. That's effective parenting. Anger is not. So giving up anger doesn't make you weak. It makes you effective. But here's the final piece. I want to talk about what's really underneath most anger. Because once you see this, everything clicks into place. Most anger isn't about the situation at all. It's about your ego. Most anger is a defense mechanism. It's protecting a wounded ego, a sense of worthlessness, a fear that you don't matter. When you understand what your anger is really protecting, you can address the actual problem instead of just managing the symptom. Think about it. When someone disrespects you, why does it make you angry? Because you're telling yourself this proves I'm not valued, I'm not important, I'm not worthy. The anger is your ego trying to fight back, to prove you matter. But here's the problem. Your worth doesn't depend on other people's behavior. Read that again. Your worth doesn't depend on other people's behavior. The core REBT principle is you're worthwhile simply because you exist, not because of your achievements, not because of others' respect, just because you're a living, breathing human being. When you know this deeply, disrespect loses its power. Here's another one, the approval addiction. Many people get angry when they don't get approval or validation. How dare she not appreciate what I did? Underneath, that is, I need her approval to feel okay about myself. This is exhausting. You're giving other people control over your emotional state. The rational alternative is I prefer approval, but I don't need it to be worthwhile. When you truly believe this, criticism stings less. Rejection doesn't devastate, because your worth isn't on the line. The fairness illusion. Why does she get that when I work harder? That's ego comparison. You're measuring your worth against others, demanding the universe give you what you deserve based on effort. But life isn't a meritocracy. It's chaos with some patterns. The ego-less view is I'll do my best and accept whatever results come. This doesn't mean you don't work hard. It means you don't make your worth dependent on outcomes. Moving from ego to self-acceptance. Unconditional self-acceptance, that's the goal. Not self-esteem, which fluctuates based on performance. Not arrogance, which is inflated ego. Just acceptance. I'm a fallible human doing my best. When you accept yourself unconditionally, others' opinions become interesting data, not threats. Failure becomes feedback, not catastrophe. Unfairness becomes that's life, not personal attack. Result? Anger drops by 80%, because the thing it was protecting, your fragile ego, doesn't need protection anymore. I'll tell you about a moment I had years ago. I gave a presentation at a conference. Pour my heart into it. Thought it was brilliant. And this one psychologist in the audience just tore it apart. Questioned my methodology, my conclusions, everything. And I felt that anger rising. How dare he? He should recognize the value of this work. And then I caught myself. Oh, I'm demanding he validate me. I'm tying my worth to his opinion. And I just let it go. I thought he disagrees. That's fine. My worth isn't dependent on his agreement. And the anger disappeared, just like that. And I could actually listen to his criticism and find the parts that were valid. That's freedom. So here's where we are. You now understand that anger is a choice based on irrational beliefs. You know the ABC model. Event, belief, consequence. You know the three major demands that create anger. Others must meet my expectations. I must be perfect. Life must be fair. You know how to dispute them. Where's the evidence? Is it logical? Is it helping? You have a practical system to make this automatic. Anger log. Pre-intervention. In the moment, interrupt. Self-compassion. And you understand that underneath the anger is usually ego protection and that you don't need that protection when you accept yourself unconditionally. So let me leave you with this. Look, let's recap what you now know that most people will never figure out. 1. Your anger isn't caused by what happens to you. It's caused by what you tell yourself about what happens. The ABC model proves this. 2. Your anger comes from demands. You must do this. Life should be that way. I have to have this. When you shift from demanding to preferring, anger evaporates. 3. You can dispute these irrational beliefs using 3 simple questions. Where's the evidence? Is this logical? Is this helping me? Do this enough and it becomes automatic. 4. Giving up anger doesn't make you weak or passive. It makes you more effective, more strategic, and better at actually getting what you want. 5. Most anger is protecting a fragile ego. When you accept yourself unconditionally, not based on others' opinions or life's fairness, you don't need anger anymore. This isn't just theory. I've spent 50 years teaching this, and I've seen it transform thousands of lives. People who are raging constantly now live with peace and clarity, not because they suppress anger, because they stop creating it in the first place. So here's what I want you to do. For the next week, catch yourself every time you get even mildly annoyed. Ask yourself, what am I demanding right now? Then dispute it. Replace the demand with a preference. Do this religiously for 7 days, and I promise you'll see a difference. You're going to mess up. You're going to rage out sometimes. That's fine. You're human. But each time you catch yourself, you're building the muscle. And eventually, rational thinking becomes your default. You don't have to live at the mercy of your anger anymore. You really don't. Now, if you found this valuable, I got another video you need to watch. It's called Why You're Not Depressed. You're just thinking wrong. Because here's the thing. The same irrational beliefs that create your anger, they also create your depression, your anxiety, your shame. In that video, I'm going to show you the other side of REBT, how your thoughts are literally creating your emotional suffering and how to stop the process. If anger is about demanding, depression is about awfulizing and helplessness beliefs. And once you see how it works, you can start dismantling it. So click that video right now. Let's keep going. Your mental freedom is waiting on the other side of those irrational beliefs. Let's go get it.